You're watching BCTV, Brantford's Community Access Station.
This is BCTV Election Live, with political analysis and reports from campaign headquarters. Now, live from the BCTV studios, here's anchor Jim Masters.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to BCTV's live election night coverage. It's great to have you with us here in 2019. We've been doing this for many years together, and folks in Brantford and the surrounding communities look forward to this night because there's so much incredible action, and the team here at BCTV works so hard to bring it to you live all across the region and across Connecticut as well. And I'm joined by my good friend here, Frank Tuhill, a familiar face. He's with the RTM, and he is our Republican analyst. And a new face here on our election set and team. Our anchor team is Chuck Tiernan, attorney, as well as Democratic analyst joining us here for election team night coverage. Welcome, guys. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's great to be back here with you. You know, I personally look forward to this night and this broadcast every year. It's one of the highlights for me. It's really exciting to be here.
Absolutely. And Chuck, welcome. It's good to have you part of our anchor team as well joining us.
Great to be here, Jim. It's my first opportunity to address the community about the Democrats.
Absolutely. So, guys, what are some of the, I know you always have copious notes, Frank. I mean, yeah, I think when we wrap up election night the year before, you're already taking notes for the next broadcast.
It's true.
What are some of the things that are really the critical issues facing our town and our region right now that really concern you? We'll start with you, Frank.
Well, the critical issues are that the town of Brantford should continue to move forward. I believe under our first selectman, Jamie Cosgrove, we have made great progress. There's a whole bunch of things that Jamie solved, that Jamie built, that have been issues in the town, some 20 years old. So he's done an outstanding job. That's possibly one of the reasons why he's not being opposed tonight. Coming up, Jim, in the future, I believe Jamie plans to address public works. You know, I mean, we still don't have a permanent location for public works. So that's coming up. And also, I believe even though the Walsh School project is about halfway done right now, he's also thinking about some other schools, possibly the John B. Sliney School, which is the oldest school in use, in town. He wants to do something with that. And also some of the other schools. He also is concentrating on the roads. He wants to maintain our excellent sewer system. And his big thing is, he wants to keep things up to snuff, so to speak. So those are the issues presently, I think, coming up, Jim.
Absolutely, quite a bit there. And Chuck, what have you heard around town?
Well, a lot of the things that we've just heard about are some of the issues that the Democrats also want to get involved in. And I think the key here is you have 13 women and 10 men running on the Democratic side. And I think they want to have some input. So the hope is that they're going to gain a number of seats so that the Republicans will have to engage them with respect to all these issues that will help the town moving forward.
Absolutely. Frank, in addition to, of course, Jamie Cosgrove, who's running unopposed, some of the other races that we really should keep an eye on here in the area.
Well, in the area, I would suggest, that the most interesting one is probably going on right now in the city of New Haven. But as far as Brantford goes, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here tonight. This is very interesting, but there's a lot of races that are on today's ballot in Brantford. They're not competitive. I mean, for instance, you have 3 candidates for the Board of Education. This is for the 6-year terms, and there's only 3 slots, so all 3 are going to get in.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because I think it's you know, it's a long time to actually pledge, you know, to go to all the meetings at the Board of Education for 6 years. It's not easy to find candidates to do 6 years. You have to find people that have their heart in it.
It's a real commitment, absolutely, yeah.
And there's others along that line too, which, for instance, let's see, it's the town clerk. She's unopposed. The current Branford tax collector is also unopposed. All the constables, of which Chuck is an incumbent constable, all the constables are unopposed. They all get in automatically.
Big year for constables.
It's important to have good constables in the town.
And even you've been up this year as well, right? Yeah.
Well, the RTM, that's where the race really is tonight. And in fact, what Chuck stated earlier is true. Currently, it's 18 Republicans and 12 Democrats. So, I mean, we'll see what the turnout is tonight, and if the RTM changes.
Absolutely. Of course, we're leading into 2020, which is going to be an interesting year with the presidential race as well. But even statewide, like you alluded to just moments ago, there's some major races happening with the mayor of Hartford, our capital city, New Haven as well, and Bridgeport. So there are a lot of major races within our vicinity here in our state.
The court, I think, ruled today in Bridgeport that even though there's questions about the absentee ballots in Bridgeport, that
election's going to continue.
It's going to continue because they had to consider it, you know, for some more time. So, right. But there was some question that, you know, because of these questions about the absentee ballots in Bridgeport, that they might actually postpone, you know, today's vote, but they didn't.
Exactly.
They didn't. But
and at Hartford, of course,
Luke Bronin
and you got Eddie Perez, who was the mayor at one time, back in action here too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
It's interesting because you have Democrats fighting Democrats in each of these large municipal elections.
Yes, absolutely,
that's true,
right. Yeah, absolutely. And then again, we're looking ahead towards the presidential, which will be an interesting year, and it's going to be an interesting election night in 2020 all the way around, with a lot of things happening here in town as well. So in terms of what you hear around town as far as progress that we are making with some of these issues that you're bringing up tonight, Frank and Chuck, there seemed to be a lot of positive forward movement as far as the development and growth of Branford and quality of life and all the things that people want from a town.
Yes, I think there is. Since I am an active candidate, the thing I've been doing is going door to door. I've also stood at the polls, and it's all positive. Everybody has good things to say about their town government. They talk about Jamie. They're happy with the growth. They're happy with their current taxes. The schools are outstanding with great teachers and great superintendent, and everything is going very well. I mean, all the trains are running on time, you know, that kind of thing. It's really good. If you want, Jim, we can talk about some of the great projects that are coming due right now. You want to hear about those?
Yeah.
Well, we could start with Walsh. Walsh was built in 1972. It's on 29 acres, an open space concept school at the time. And so all these years now, since it was built in 1972, it's been open space inside. It means there's no walls, you know, between the classrooms. They're all spaces. So, I mean, for years now,
people have been about that a lot.
People complained about that. So anyway, there's a brand new project. There was a huge grant that we got from the state. Yeah. And it's coming along. So
we're actually going to head right now to Democratic headquarters, and our reporter Stephanie Farber is on the scene with an interview with Ray Dunbar. Stephanie, take it away.
Okay. Hi, I'm Stephanie Farber. I'm here at the Italian American Club where the Democrats have gathered after the vote. And my first interview today, I'm happy to say, is with Ray Dunbar. He's been our candidate for selectman. Congratulations, Ray.
Thanks.
So how do you think the campaign has gone?
You know, we're still waiting for the results to come in. I think the candidates worked very hard, but ultimately it's up to the people on what they want to do. So shortly we should know.
And you for sure are going to be on the Board of Selectmen. So any thoughts about what you'll be concentrating on the board?
Yeah, my whole thing has been communications. I've seen some difficulty in communications making its way from town hall sometimes to the RTM, which I believe needs it in a timely manner so that they can, absorb it and make good decisions. And it seems that there's been a little snag on that. And as I said in the past, I'm going to work to make that better.
That sounds great. And any other thoughts, like going forward for you personally?
For me personally, I'm looking forward to the next 2 years. I know both of the other members on the board. I've worked with these people, in the past. They're, we've been friends. So I see a good relationship going through. There's a lot of projects I wish that would get finished in the town that I know about. And sometimes one person can't do it all by himself. So I'm going to offer my services and whenever I can. And I'll try to help those things, come to fruition. And that's really what it's all about. It's whatever's best for the town.
Well, thank you very much, Ray, and good luck going forward. I look forward to seeing you on the board.
All right, thank you.
Okay, sure. My next interview is with Bobby Gilbrooks. Bobby has been our tax collector for the last 2 years, and tell us how that's been for you.
It's been a very, very exciting learning experience. I'm learning so much about Branford and the diversity. There's a lot to this job. We do more than collect taxes, and it's every tax bill has a different cycle, so it's busy different times of the year, but I absolutely love it. I'm one class shy of certification and state exam, so it takes 3 years to get certified, so by this time next year I will be certified.
So certified in what? What does that mean?
CCMC, it's municipal tax collecting, and it's a specialty certification. It's 4 courses. And you have to pass them with a minimum 85 and then pass the state exam.
Are you a good student?
I think I am. Good test taker. Sure. Mm-hmm.
So what about the next term for you? Is it going to be same, or do you look forward to new things, or what?
Well, there's going to be some changes in the department. I have a fantastic team that works with me. We've had some new employees, and they're learning and getting on board. And we're all kind of learning together. One veteran there that has really helped me, Anna Del Rosso, my right hand, my assistant. She's been priceless and invaluable to me. So I'm glad to have such a supportive team.
I remember 2 years ago your family was over the top when you won the election, after your father and other family members have been so active in Branford. So what did they say this time?
Well, this time around, they were really happy that the cross endorsement, or the endorsed by both parties, so that, it wasn't as much work, but I wanted to still get out there and do the meet and greets and knock on the doors as best I could. Today I popped around to all the polls as best I could, to support the rest of the ticket, and they're still excited and always unbelievably supportive. I could not ask for a more supportive family. I just love them. They're my absolute favorite people in the world. Yeah.
Well, you're ours too in the town of Branford, so thank you very much, Bobby.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Back to you in the studio.
And thank you very much, Stephanie Farber at Democratic headquarters. In just a moment, we're going to check in with the action at Republican headquarters. But first, what we noticed too, and you brought this up while we were watching the interviews with Ray and with Bobby, is the fact that many people in the town have run unopposed this year. And that's quite interesting to have the volume. I mean, you have all the different E's noted there, Frank, on your chart. And it's extraordinary to see, all the different unopposed, including Ray as well.
Yes. As far as the unopposed, Jim, these are the ones that are unopposed. The first selectman, these people are all reelected tonight because they're unopposed.
Right.
The first selectman, Jamie Cosgrove. Then there's the 2 selectmen, also unopposed. You heard from Ray Dunbar. The other one is Joseph Higgins. The other unopposed category is our town clerk, Lisa Arpin. She's automatically reelected. Now, there is a heat between the treasurer candidates. It was close last year. 300 votes was between Kurt Schwanfelder and our current incumbent treasurer, Michael Nardella. So we'll see how that one turns out. That's a contested race. The other uncontested one is the tax collector. We just heard from Bobby Gill Brooks, and she's uncontested. She's reelected tonight. Now, there were three, as I said before, 3 6-year candidates for Board of Ed. All 3 have been reelected. They're unopposed. Their names are Ellen Michaels and our current chairman of the school board, Michael Kraus, and Dawn Parati. All incumbents tonight, all reelected because they're unopposed. Then there are 2 candidates for the Board of Education seat that's 4 years long. Okay, so that's a contested race, Jim. And that's between Lisa Carano and Margaret Gaffney. Okay, then we have the Board of Assessment Appeals, 2 candidates, they're both reelected, unopposed. Those 2 are Jason Driscoll and Joseph Fazzino, both incumbents on the Board of Assessment Appeals, and both reelected automatically. Then all the constables, of which Chuck Tiernan here is an incumbent constable, he and the other 6 constables are all automatically reelected, unopposed. So it's true.
Absolutely. Good work there. A lot of calculations have been made there.
It's true.
It's really good.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, we're going to head out now to Republican headquarters live, and our reporter Pete Schulz is on the scene, and he is with Ray Ingraham right now. Let's take you over to Republican headquarters here live on BCTV with reporter Pete Schulz. Pete? Okay, little audio problem there. We are broadcasting live. They'll check that out in just a second. And we'll be back to Republican headquarters in just a moment with Pete. And again, Ray Ingraham is his guest. So there was more that you wanted to share with us, Frank.
Yes, the thing I wanted to mention tonight was the turnout, Jim.
Yeah,
I have
that's
figures.
important.
They aren't official. The only one that can give official figures tonight is the town clerk, Lisa Arpin. So this is all unofficial tonight, everything. But I did have recent current numbers as of 7 p.m. Okay, there are in the town of Brantford this year, as of yesterday, there were 20,843 registered voters. That's about the way it's been for the last couple of years. Now, usually a little under 30% is the average turnout for the local Brantford election, of which this is one.
And how do you feel that compares to other neighboring towns and what an average is for a town generally?
Well, Jim,
would consider that good?
Yes, it's about average, I think, for the whole shoreline. It depends on what's at issue. For instance, the first time that Jamie Cosgrove ran in 2013, the candidate he ran against was Andy Campbell, and 43% of the voters came out for that election. But ever since then, it's been around 30%. It's gone down. So anyway, so as of around 7 tonight, unofficially, of the 20,843 voters in Brantford, about 28.8% had gone to the polls, so 6,003. So,
you wonder, because there are so many uncontested contests, if people just decided there was no point in coming out and voting. I mean, it's unfortunate, but people may have stayed away because they just figured their vote really wasn't going to have an effect.
Because it's uncontested,
right.
Exactly right. Still always good to get out there. It's just there's something really important about participating and that feeling that you do get when you know you've participated in what's going on in your town government, in your local area, right? To still go out there and...
Well, I mean, it's your civic duty.
I think this is one of the first times the Democrats didn't run a candidate for first selectman, and I think it'll be interesting to see what the effect of that is.
Do you think there's a reason why they didn't? Just nobody available?
I don't know that they had anyone. Well, I think they had trouble finding an individual who was prepared to give up the time to do that.
Right.
I think Ray Dunbar, in that second selectman or selectman position, I think he's a terrific choice. He has years of experience as a police officer. I went to high school with Ray, and he's a very dedicated individual,
Right.
and he really cares about this town. And I think he really wants to work in collaboration with Jamie and the Republicans. And the hope would be, if we could flip some of those seats in the RTM, we could really make some things happen and move.
Okay. We're going to go back to Republican headquarters live right now with our reporter Pete Schultz, who's on assignment, and he is right now with Ray Ingraham. Pete, take it away.
We're getting ready, sir. Hey, we're here live at Republican headquarters with Ray Ingraham, RTM candidate from the 5th District. Ray, your thoughts on this year's election?
Well, I think we've gone very well. We're hearing in the back of the room that we're hearing some of the districts come in now. 5th District, we ended up strong. So the 4 candidates that we ran should make it over. 6th District, the same thing. We ran many candidates unopposed or cross-endorsed. Agreements. Not agreements with parties, but people realizing that we needed to keep people in place, and that's what we think the day will end up being, is that many people will stay in place and will keep governing.
That's great. What's your vision for the next 2 years for the town?
Well, the next 2 years, we want to keep moving where we have a middle school to finish, finishing touches on the community house. There might be little things that have to happen. We do have public works that we have to work on. We have to make a decision on what we want to do there. And then, we do have people that are hitting us, especially on the RTM. People have asked again about blight ordinances. They want us to revisit that. Right there at the polls today. So we're going to have to bring up those issues that we heard today, right? As people were walking into the polls.
Excellent. Any other thoughts you have for this year?
It's a big thank you to Brantford. From as things are lining up, we're really excited about governing again. We'll keep the trust. We'll keep working. We'll keep moving forward.
All right, congratulations to you, and back to you, studio.
Pete, great report. Thank you very much. And wanted to chat with you guys about what you just saw with Ray Ingraham and some of his comments and his looking towards the future for the town.
Well, as far as the blight ordinance, what happened was I introduced a blight ordinance last year, or actually this term, on the RTM. There are some houses, there aren't many, but there's a couple of houses in town. Some of the neighbors, they called me and they said, Frank, can't you do something about the house? These houses, they're not being kept up properly. There's maybe junk around, the yards look terrible, and it's bringing down our property values. So the thing I did was contact Guilford, and they just completed, they just completed a blight ordinance. So I think the other thing that Ray said, he said that, right, his constituents told him at the polls today that they wanted something done about blight. Yeah. That's what responsible government does. Right. You bring it forward. This used to be just a big town meeting up until 1958, which Chuck talked about before, and then there was a charter adopted, and the representative town meeting was started. And as Chuck said, this is the first time ever that the first selectman has run ever since 1958, since the charter was established, unopposed.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because that's something we haven't really talked about before in previous election nights here on BCTV, is this blight ordinance, and the fact that, unfortunately, you need to have something like that. Does it seem like there's any increase in properties that are getting a little neglected? You can drive through certain areas and you see a couple of places where there are things on the lawn and the lawn's not mowed and the house isn't painted, and the next door is a well-kept house. That can be a little frustrating for people.
Yeah, it's true. I don't think it's increased at all. I think that there's only a few houses, I think, that you would consider blighted in Brantford. It's a very odd thing to have, on your street. There aren't many of them, but right. I don't think I think that those could be going down a little bit, but I don't think there's any new ones.
So the ordinance would require that homeowner to clean up the property, maintain it, cut the lawn, all of the things that one would hope for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too bad that this has to be asked for, but that's what the people want. They're asking for this because they believe that their own property values are being impacted by the neighbor's blight.
Absolutely. And you agree, Chuck, as well? Yeah.
Well, I think that is not such a big problem in Branford. However, you're hearing from constituents at the polls that there are some issues, and it was such an issue with you that you put together an ordinance.
Yes. Yes.
What happened with that?
Well, I just was told about it by constituents towards the end of the term. So, I mean, it was really too late, to have it go further, because when something comes in, first of all, it goes to the Rules and Ordinance Committee. They have to look at it. They look at the language, the punctuation, all the stuff lawyers like. Then it goes to the town council, and so they have to review it. So the whole process.
So it's a timing issue.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked also too in previous election nights. One of the big things is sometimes the mood of the country becomes local as well, and some would argue that there's a lot of divisiveness happening in our society as a whole, in our country, and it's for and against, and this and that. Do you find that here within the town, everybody is more willing to roll up their sleeves, pitch in, and work collectively together for the good of the town? Both Republican and
Well, I
Democratic.
certainly think from the perspective of the Democrats, and taking Ray Dunbar, for example, he wants to work with the Republicans. There are a lot of funded, unfilled positions within the town,
Right.
and I think, Ray wants to address those issues and get those filled. Find out why they're not being filled and fill them. In addition to that, I think folks like Tom Brockett, who's an incumbent on the RTM, he wants to work collaboratively with the Republicans. And I think bringing the Democrats into the fold will allow for more progress to happen in a much better basis.
You agree, Frank? You see that happening?
I don't see the divisiveness on the RTM. There is one unfilled job, which is the Director of Public Works, which I think Jamie's going to fill. There are some unfilled vacancies, though, on like the volunteer boards, which have to be filled. But I don't see the divisiveness. I mean, we've always, if they have ideas, Chris, he's the minority leader. He speaks up, and we take his thoughts into account. I think that our first selectman is doing such a good job that everything is really considered when the plans are brought forward. Everything's been thought of. I mean, if you look at the community house, for example, right, that went through public hearings, public meetings, and you should see it. It's like a work of art. Everything was thought thoroughly of, the outside, the landscaping, inside the new gym floor. I mean, you got to go in and see it. Everything has been done in consultation with everybody, and I hope it continues.
One thing, though, the town's borrowed a lot of money. If you look at the borrowing the town's done, at some point that money's going to have to be paid back.
Well, as far as that goes, it's all carefully calculated. What happens is towns, a rule of thumb is that you're able to borrow like 10% of your total of the annual amount that you raise in taxes. Okay, you can, but in the town of Branford, even with the projects we just did, like Walsh, the library, the senior center, and the community house, it's only every dollar you spend in taxes, you only spend in interest about 7.5 pennies out of that. So it's reasonable. It's not that much. It's true we have recently, but we've also paid things off recently. So overall, it's low. I mean, it's well managed. We have this great finance director that is doing a great job, and he has for years. His name is Jim
Finch.
Mm-hmm. And he's done a great job. So there's a lot of good things going on in the town. It's an open door policy with Jamie. You can go into the town hall and speak to him. I think the other reason, Jim, you wanted to know before, how come he's unopposed? Well, because he's not a political. I mean, he doesn't make decisions based on politics. He tries to do what's in the best interest of the town. And you know what, too? I mean, you have to give him credit because all of these projects, like I said before, they've been around for like 20 years, and he got them done. I mean, this is an example. 20 years now, down in Stony Creek, they've wanted bathroom facilities down there. So They were going to buy the post office and use that for the restrooms. They put some, they put some things up in the park there, but it was our first selectman. He got it done. There's now a trailer that goes in down there for June, July, and August. It can be used in different parts of town, and the cost of the trailer was $100,000, and it's been used now for the last year, and everybody likes it. I mean, it took 20 years, but our first selectman got that done, And there's other examples of that too, Jim.
And we'll have those in just a moment. But first, we're going live to Democratic headquarters right now with our reporter, Stephanie Farber, who is with Tom Brockett. Stephanie, take it.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Farber for BCTV. I'm back here at the Italian American Club, and I have with me Tom Brockett. Tom has just completed his first term as an RTM member from my district, the 7th District, and he is also the vice chair of the DTC. So welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
How has it been for you this term on the RTM?
The RTM's been very exciting. It was a great experience. It was challenging, yet it was stimulating. There were several good issues on the RTM in the past 2 years, such as the Blackstone Library and the Indian Neck Firehouse and some other things. And the vice chair of the DTC has been a very good learning experience on how to run an election and how to campaign.
Right. And you're also on the RTM, you have a special spot.
Yes, I am the clerk of the RTM. I replaced Jessica back in June of 2019, and I've been the clerk since then.
So what does the clerk do?
The clerk of the RTM reads the citizens' communications, takes the minutes, does the annual minutes of the RTM, and does a lot of the paperwork associated with the RTM.
Well, I haven't gotten the results from the 7th District in yet, but we're certainly hoping that you're coming back for a second term. Is there anything that you particularly are looking forward to helping pass?
Yes, I'm looking forward to my running mate, Donna Leach, winning in the 7th District so that we can have a strong support for the 7th District for 2 Democrats. So that's my goal for this RTM and to regain my seat as well.
Yes. As I'm talking now also as you were so active in the Democratic campaign, and this year we had an extremely diverse group of candidates for office, including, I think, 15 women, 10 men, an immigrant, African American. What's that been like?
That's been terrific. I think this is the future of the Democratic Party. I think we need to be all-inclusive. We need to have as many women and diverse candidates on the Democratic Party so we get all viewpoints for our town. And I think that I'm hoping that they all win tonight, so we'll have a terrific RTM going forward.
Well, I hope so. Do you think it would be very different if you had more women on the RTM?
I think it would be different. I think that we would look at issues differently. I also think there would be several issues raised by these newly elected women that weren't on the RTM before, and I think it would be good for our town.
Okay. Well, congratulations, I hope, and thanks very much, Tom Brockett.
Thank you very much.
Okay. This is Stephanie Farber for BCTV. Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you very much for that live coverage from Democratic headquarters here in Brantford. Good evening once again. Live team coverage continues just past 8:30 and change. Jim Masters here, your anchor at the BCTV live studios, joined once again by Republican analyst and strategist Frank Toohill, and also joining us representing Democrat is Chuck Tiernan. It's good to have both of them here as we continue to consult and strategize and talk about everything that's happening tonight. We're going to go now to Republican headquarters as well, and Pete Schultz is out on location, and he has somebody with him right now, so let's go to Pete.
Okay, we're ready. Hi, we're live again at Republican headquarters, this time with Lisa Arpin, the town clerk of Brantford. She's about to enter her 4th 2-year term. She has some pretty unique ideas about what she wants to talk about. I thought it was pretty interesting.
So thanks everybody for coming out to vote today. We had a great turnout. I really wanted to talk about the exuberance that I saw with the young Republicans that came out to help us with our campaign. They were from Hopkins, they were from Brantford High, they were from Notre Dame, and they were doing their service hours for political science. They had great questions, and it was really exciting to see how they wanted to learn more about how the elections were run, and they were really sponges about learning the ins and outs of a campaign and how we ran an election. So I was really invigorated by that, and I wanted to just point that out and do a shout out to them that they did a really super job, and thank you to them. And I also wanted to talk about absentee balloting. So people forget that beyond going just to the polls in person, there is the component of absentee balloting, which really could skew or win or lose an election. And so as the town clerk's office or the city clerk throughout the state of Connecticut, we are responsible for administering absentee ballots, and it's really kind of cool to see the numbers come in and realize that you can ultimately win or lose by a few votes. And when the absentees come in a little bit later than the polling results, you can see that it really does make a huge difference.
Yeah, it sure does. Any other points you want to add before we close?
I also helped a lot of folks in the last week that either were elderly or mobility challenged, and really educated them on voting by absentee ballot. And also there's something called a permanent absentee ballot that folks that have disability challenges can petition their own medical doctor to get a doctor's note, and they can then be on a permanent absentee ballot list. And so they don't have to worry about trying to figure out, am I going to feel good on election day to get out to vote? So they can vote by mail, by absentee ballot. And I really give a shout out to those folks that really want to exercise their right to vote. And I really advocate for them.
Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Back to studio.
Thank you, Pete. We appreciate that. We're back with you momentarily at the headquarters there for live updates. And we thank Lisa Arpin joining you as well. Really interesting. She really emphasized the absentee balloting and the importance of that and how that really counts as well. And the fact that folks are immobile and seniors, what have you, to still participate. And that can really make a big difference. What do you guys, Chuck, what do you feel about that?
Well, I think absolutely. I mean, look what happened in Bridgeport with absentee ballots.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's important that everybody has the opportunity to vote, and I think the fact that they go out of their way through the town clerk's office to make that happen is terrific, especially when people are infirm and want to vote.
And they still want to participate, Frank?
Well, Jim, I mean, it's good that we do pay such attention to the handicapped, the elderly, the people that are homebound. I mean, they, probably work their whole life. They probably still pay taxes, and they want to exercise their civic duty. So if they are homebound, it's very hard for them to get out, get the ballot. So that's an excellent idea to have what Lisa Arpin just said, the permanent absentee ballot.
And earlier when we were at Democratic headquarters, when Stephanie was interviewing Tom Brockett, he mentioned about having possibly more women coming into the RTM and how that will enhance things. There'll be different issues that will be brought to light as well. That would be a wonderful thing to have as well, Martin. Right?
It's true. I mean, they're people just like us. They're equals. They're just wonderful.
Thank you, Frank.
You don't think that?
Yes, of course.
But anyway, so as far as the Republicans, we do have two serving now, and they're both running again. And there's a third one that also. From Short Beach, she wants to get on the RTM, but of course they should. I mean, it's great to have people, all people.
New issues
we have
the
Democrats. We have a very talented group of women running this time, and I really hope that they have an opportunity to serve, because I think it'll make a big difference, and I think they'll bring a lot of progress to the town.
Yeah,
consistent with the things they've talked about over the course of this election.
Absolutely.
And you guys, of course, have been involved in the town for many, many years. And if there's somebody watching right now, there could be somebody that's maybe even in school who is seeing this action tonight on BCTV, and they're considering getting themselves involved in public office and running and participating. You will wholeheartedly encourage that, right? Participate, roll your sleeves up, and do what you can.
Oh, true. And Jim, I think that both parties, they want the young people to be involved. I mean, what happens with the Republicans, right? The Republican Town Committee meets the third Monday each month at 7 o'clock at the fire headquarters. We've had a whole bunch of students come these last few meetings, because they're involved with the elections. The schools, right, there's a requirement in high school that you have to do something for your town. So they've been helping at the polls. But absolutely, I mean, they should be involved. It's their country, it's their town, it's a democracy, They should speak up.
Because it's something that's not always available in other countries, around the world. So it's a real honor and a privilege to have these opportunities.
Absolutely. And think of the people that died in this country over the right to vote, the war for independence with England. I mean, it's, I forget which politician said it, but they said, right, you're only one generation away from slavery. You have to get involved, speak up all the time.
Absolutely. We are now going to Republican headquarters, and our reporter Pete Schulz is with Jamie Cosgroves. Pete, take it away.
And we're back here at Republican headquarters. Last but not least is Jamie Cosgrove, the town's first selectman. He's about to enter his fourth two-year term. Jamie, how did the campaign go this year?
Obviously, as you know, I was unopposed this year, so it was quiet in that sense. But, there's still an election, and you still have to get your team in there and keep working. You can't become complacent. And I just commend the entire team for still staying focused and getting out there and trying, earn the votes. We've accomplished a lot in the last 6 years, and when we ran 6 years ago, we ran as a team. So although I was unopposed, I still had that team mentality. And, we're waiting for the final results to come in, but I look forward to serving another term. We'll certainly have a lot of people back, and there's going to be some new faces. And like I said, over the last 6 years, I've really governed. I stated a number, years ago when I first won. It wasn't after the election night. It's no longer about RSDs and U's. It's about the town of Brantford, and that's how we've governed. Our team has governed over the last 6 years, and we're going to continue to do so. So again, whether it's the members who are returning or the new members, everyone will know that I have an open door policy. I work with both sides. I give consideration to thoughts and ideas. And that's how you move things forward. And then we're going to continue to do that.
That's great. Any particular challenges the town's facing that you're going to focus on?
Well, certainly. I mean, there's always issues out there, and we're going to continue to, be mindful of what's happening on the state level, how that'll impact the town. We're going to be focused on, being able to restrain budget growth, therefore restrain the tax growth. But but we also still have to provide the programs and services that we offer here in town. I think in Brantford, we distinguished ourselves as a community that is able to provide high level of programs and services. But, we also know there has to be a balance, right? So how do you do that? We got to still stay focused on economic development as well as the other quality of life issues, which we've been doing all along. So it's the same issues and same challenges that were here for the last 6 years in a lot of instances, but we're going to continue to be mindful. And like I said, you can't be complacent. You always have to stay focused and keep moving forward. And that's what we've done, and we're going to continue to do so and get things done here in Brantford.
Okay, well, congratulations, sir. Any other points you want to add before we close?
I just want to thank everybody. It's been an honor to serve this town for the last 6 years. as first selectman. I look forward to doing it again, and I just want to, thank all those who have supported me, my administration.
Thank you, sir. Back to you, studio.
Pete, thank you very much. We appreciate that with Brantford First Selectman Jamie Cosgrove. He brought up a couple of different really interesting points that we've been talking about here inside the BCTV studios live about some of the things that go on at the state level that sometimes people don't think trickles down to impact the individual towns. What are some of those things they're wrangling with statewide that would impact a town like Brantford?
Well, I mean, the worst thing that happened, Jim, I believe, was last year the state didn't adopt their budget until after all the local towns had to adopt their budgets. So all the local towns, they weren't sure what the ECS grant would be to the schools. They didn't know what town aid would be. They were blind. They had to estimate. They had to, hear rumors about what possibly they were going to get from the state. So finally, the state did adopt their 2-year budget, but I think it was in August, of that year, as I remember. So that I think was the worst, just the uncertainty of it. And for all 169 towns that, they're supposed to represent us, up in Hartford, and they should have gotten it passed, but it's tough because, they do make these grants to all the local towns, and so, the towns are always, they aren't sure if they're going to get it all, if it's going to be cut. So it's true. It's almost a full-time job just to pay attention to what's going on in Hartford.
Absolutely, and Lonnie Reed, of course, very big in doing that for the town and is still doing what she can. How do you feel about all that, the impact of what happens at the state level?
Well, I think, the good news is that the budget that was just passed is going to cover a number of years, whereas in the past they had these short windows and they had to rush and, it was the complete focus of the legislature, but they'd pass the budget at the last minute, and the kinds of things Frank talked about would occur. I think now the way they've done it this time is there's some foreseeability, so the town is able to budget in a responsible way and be able to take care of the things, especially as relates to education.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that Jamie was talking about too, is to try to restrain the budget growth, but at the same time it's that balance of still being able to provide services and programs to a town. You're always working that balance, right?
Yes, and also the town of Brantford, Jim, is in excellent shape. We have in our undesignated fund balance about $27 million. That's the rainy day fund. We do bring forward about $3 million every year to offset, the increase in costs, to pay people for their work and to, the sewer and the roads and everything. But, we do have that on hand. That's been done over the years through frugal financial planning and care. We have an excellent board of finance, and as I said before, we have Jim Finch, who's our finance director. They all do outstanding work.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about that a little bit. I know you wanted to touch upon economic development within Brantford. There's been various things, Costco, other things that we've talked about in previous elections. What are some of those real issues involving economic development that you see happening within the town now?
I think we really missed Terry Elton. Terry Elton was terrific about trying to develop those things, and he did a fantastic job while he was doing that, but he's now retired. Yeah. And I think it's important. I mean, there's big shoes to fill, but we have to get somebody to do those things. And for example, the center of town, there are some vacant storefronts in the center of town. You don't want to see that. So the hope is that you can bring some businesses into the town and really move the needle with respect to tax base and those kinds of things.
There's two areas you and I have always talked about on these election nights too, which is whatever development would be possibly going on with the area in front of the Starbucks, where that exit 53 is, the Pretzel in Brantford, some vacant areas that are there, and then up towards the Walmart, where the bowling alley used to be, and the shirt factory used to be, that's sort of just sitting there. anything going on in those areas, those prime real estate areas?
No, it's true. I mean, they're right off the highway, off an exit. I just heard rumors, Jim. The rumors I heard was that Costco is not dead. I mean, I wouldn't get your hopes up, people. But supposedly they're looking, or they might look at up there at exit 53 by the old shirt factory, like you said, Jim. As far as the Pretzel, that's a beautiful piece of land there. It was owned by Stop and Shop. I think they might still own it, I don't know, for many years. They were going to expand, put a new supermarket there. But I think it was looked at by Cumberland Farms recently. But, you know, you're right. It's right there. It's got, I don't know, thousands of cars a day. And
you know what people would love there? A Trader Joe's.
A Trader Joe's.
So many people on the shoreline
yes.
go to the Trader Joe's over in Orange. Everybody you talk to. And that would be a wonderful, I think, addition to Brantford.
No, it would really. That's a store that everybody loves. You know, going door to door. You know, we used to ask people in the last few weeks, you know, how are things in Brantford? You know, are you happy? Is there any problems? Or you like the taxes? And I mean, the big thing they said was Costco. They still want Costco, even though it pulled out of exit 56. They still want Costco. So.
I have to tell you, I brought a lot of people, because we do a lot of shoots within the studio with one of the hats I wear, which is with CUTV News. And we brought a lot of people that I've interviewed here in the studios from all over the country and Canada. And when they come to this town and we go to dinner at the local restaurants, and they've got their rental car and they tour the shoreline, they go all throughout the town, they fall in love with Brantford. They really do. The history, the people, everything that it offers in terms of good restaurants and cafes and entertainment. They really love the town, and they go back to Seattle and Cleveland and Houston and Toronto raving about this town and this area.
Oh, I know.
We're very fortunate to live here.
We really are. I mean, it's got everything from the Thimble Islands up to the hills. You know, it's got some steep hills with great mountain climb. I mean, trails. You know, they go up the Saltonstall Ridge, the Supply Pond.
It's also a very active town. I mean, there's always something going on.
That's true.
On the green, no matter what it is, there's always things happening and things to do, which I think is what gives a town great spirit, which is why I think maybe people turn out for elections and things of that nature too, is the fact that you have such spirit, appreciation for the history and the culture and the artistic expression in the town, but also some of the new things that are happening within the town, growing the town as well. It just seems like the town is very prideful and very involved civically, politically, athletically, very in tune with the sound and the water. I think that's great. That makes for a well-rounded experience for people.
Yeah, no, it's true. And people, you know, as you said, Jim, I mean,
you grew up here, you know.
I grew up here, so did Chuck.
I did. You guys know.
But I mean, going door to door, everybody said that. Oh, somebody said to me at the door yesterday, they said, you know, we're retired now. Our kids are out of the Brantford schools, and we've always said after this kids leave Brantford schools, we can go anywhere. You know, we can move to Hawaii, or we can go to Europe or Florida. They said, but no, we aren't moving. We're staying because we love Brantford so much.
Mm-hmm. No, like you say, great restaurants. I mean, you can't find better places to eat than you can in Brantford. Mm-hmm. All types of food. You have a beautiful shoreline, and as Frank said, you have beautiful hiking trails. Mm-hmm. I mean, you walk from Pine Orchard to Stony Creek. It's beautiful.
Foot Park.
On the trolley trail.
We're always doing lots of laps at Foot Park. It's a great place too.
Well,
all the parks in Brantford are really fantastic. Very well maintained too.
Alex
they redo the tennis courts and
Alex
the walkways.
Paluzzi.
They do a great job in this town with the parks.
I think Alex Paluzzi's getting a national award, a great award for the work he's done as the recreation director, and he's going beyond.
Brantford Point. I mean, there's just so many different areas that are fantastic.
It's true, but if I could just say, I mean, Alex Paluzzi, I think he's the best recreation director in the country, and he's always followed in the footsteps of Joe Trapasso, who was our recreation director for 50 years, I think, and now this is Alex's 32nd year, I think, as director. But they were both, and they are both, just outstanding.
Okay, so right now we're going to go to Republican headquarters and Pete Schultz with Ray Ingraham, that is, for a wrap-up. Guys, take it away.
Wrap-up, really?
Here we go, okay. Okay, we're back live at the Republican headquarters, back with Ray Ingraham. Ray, not all the numbers are in yet, but what can you tell us so far?
Yeah, with the majority of the numbers in right now, we're looking at again the unopposed seats are the unopposed seats. Board of Education will go to Meredith Gaffney by a good margin. The treasurer's seat will go to Kurt Schwanfelder. So there's a little bit of a change there. On the RTM, it looks like that we're gonna be a little bit of a closer in numbers group. By our accounts, we'll probably be a Republican majority of 17 to 13, 14. But we'll have absentees and maybe a recount to sort that out, mainly in the 7th district and the 5th district. So we're there. So we're retaining the majority. We do have. The people have come out. They've spoken. They've come out and voted. We'll react to that. We're happy to be governing again. We're happy to be in the driver's seat. But people might want a little bit of things to change a little bit, then we'll have to listen to that.
Great. And what are some of the challenges you're facing? What you're going to focus on as a team?
Well, we talked a little bit earlier. The challenges haven't changed. It's in Brantford government. We haven't run into it's so much of an R versus D. It's a philosophy against a philosophy, and that permeates parties. We've had many votes on the RTM in the last 6 years where both parties have voted for or against something. So it ends up being, to me, a nonpartisan vote because we're just voting what our districts want. And that's what we ask for any RTM.
Great. Well, thank you very much, sir. And back to you, studio.
Pete Schultz, thank you very much for that live update report. We appreciate that as well. And again, he said, Ray, a lot of the challenges that have been the challenges remain the challenges within the town as well.
It's continuing. I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's to keep the roads grade, keep the sewer system, possibly find a headquarters for Public Works. I thought that was interesting, Jim, that we got some results tonight.
Yeah.
And so if I could just state again what he said.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, for the treasurer, again, it's unofficial. Only Lisa Arp and the town clerk can state officially who won, and that won't probably be till tonight or even tomorrow morning. But from what we just heard, that report from Ray Ingraham over at the headquarters, Kurt Schwanfelder has beaten Michael Nardella as town treasurer. Again, that's unofficial. It was close in 2017. There was a difference of about 340 votes between the two. So this year, it looks like, if that's true, Kurt is our town treasurer for the next 2 years going forward. And Jim, the other one that was announced by Ray, unofficially again.
Meredith Gaffney.
Correct. For the Board of Education, the 4-year seat, it was Miss Gaffney versus Lisa Caruso. And from what we were just told, the winner is Meredith Gaffney. So she will be seated on the Board of Ed. And then Ray said as well, we just heard again unofficially, that he thinks the RTM has changed by one person on each party. It's 18 to 12 now, with the Republicans at 18. And from what Ray just said, he believes it's now 17 Republicans down one, and then 13 Democrats up one. So the majority is still, if that's correct, the majority is still the Republicans.
And more results coming in. We're going to go right now to take a look at the first selectman and second selectman results as well, as everything is coming in. There you go. Of course, Jamie Cosgrove with 885. First selectman in the first district. Again, ran unopposed this year. And then first selectman second district as well. There you have third district, 377. So there's fourth with 596. There's your fifth with 857 for Jamie Cosgrove. 649 in the sixth district. And then the 7th, 495. Election night live coverage continues. The total, 4,299 for Jamie Cosgrove. And what do you guys think about that, those numbers?
Okay, well, I can compare them, Jim, to 2017. I got those figures right here. But like we said before, it looked like it was a normal turnout of about 28, 29, 30%, which, all right, so I have the comparisons for last year, for 2017.
Yeah.
So, looking at the figures, let me put my finger on them here. Let's see. Oh, I'm in the wrong stack. Just a second, please. It's over
Frank
here.
Tuhel has
It's over here. I got 3 stacks.
quite a few stacks. He always does.
Thank you. All right, here we go. All right.
I think we're going to get ready to go to.
Okay.
While you're digging,
Yeah,
we're going
I
to
got
go to
'em.
Democratic headquarters. So there's a little bit of a teaser. Frank will be back with the stats.
Great.
First, we have some great material coming up from Democratic headquarters with Stephanie Farber. Take it away, Stephanie.
Hi, it's Stephanie Farber back at the Italian American Club, and I'm honored here to have with me 2 winners tonight. Ray Dunbar, who we talked to before as selectman, and Kurt Schwanfelder, who's our new treasurer. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with Kurt. And tell us a bit about your plans as treasurer for those who aren't familiar with what the treasurer of the town does.
Well, the nice part about being the treasurer's position is that we'll have somebody now in the Democratic Party who will be able to oversee what happens as far as the Republicans and how they spend our money and to make sure that it's spent correctly. And that's the nice part about it is we now will have the checks and balances in Town Hall that haven't been there for quite some time.
Good luck on that. And Ray, now that you have someone else in Town Hall with you, how's that going to be for you?
Well, it's going to be a new experience for me just being in Town Hall. I'm extremely grateful to the people. I mean, I was able to edge out Joe, which is something that's not easy to do. He's a very nice person. But I thank the townspeople for having the confidence in me. I'll work very hard for them, and I look forward to it. And I think part of what I had said in the past about passing down information, I think with Kurt inside there looking over things, he will be able to pass that down through me, and the RTM candidates will have a better idea of what's really taking place. And I think it's positive for the town. It's a little bit more of a balance.
Well, congratulations to both of you. Good luck going forward. Okay.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a group of women here who have been candidates for the RTM and other spots on town. So hold on 1 minute while we assemble.
Okay, Stephanie is working hard. We appreciate her. And we appreciate Pete Schultz as well doing yeoman's work out of both headquarters here in Brantford with their special guests. Joined once again here now in the 9 o'clock hour. I'm Jim Masters, your anchor and host for BCTV Live election team coverage here from the BCTV studios, Brantford, Connecticut. Joined once again by our Republican analyst and strategist, Frank Tuhel, and Democratic is Chuck Tiernan, and they're both doing a phenomenal job. You were digging and digging and digging for some numbers and comparisons from 2019 to back to 2017 for Jamie in terms of the numbers. Let's see what you've got.
Okay. All right. It was stated earlier, just a few minutes ago, Jim said that 4,299 was the number of votes that Jamie got for first selectman this year, unopposed. 2 years ago, he got 4,389. He got about 90 more votes than this year, 2 years ago. And that's with about the same turnout, 29%. And
right behind us, you can see the second selectman results are up on the board, on the screen there. Ray Dunbar, 536. Joe Higgins, 624 in the first district. That's close. And second is 418 for Ray Dunbar and 300 for Joe Higgins, Jr. In the third, Ray Dunbar, 455. Joe Higgins Jr., 232. And in the fourth, Ray Dunbar, 465. Joe Higgins Jr., 433. As the results are coming in. In the fifth, Ray Dunbar, 592. Joe Higgins Jr., 619. And in the sixth, Dunbar has 350. Higgins has 488. And in the seventh, Dunbar with 308 and Higgins with 365.
Jim,
second selectman in Brantford. Thoughts on those results?
Okay, so
and there's the total.
Okay,
we got 3,124 for Ray Dunbar, and Joe Higgins 3,061. Very close. Really close.
Right, and because Jamie was uncontested or unopposed, then both those gentlemen are on the Board of Selectmen. They were both elected tonight.
Right.
And we have, as Jim said, Joseph Higgins is 73. He was intimately involved. He was on duty down in New York City. He was for the fire department in New York when the two planes took down the World Trade Tower for 9/11. And then we have Ray Dunbar, who's 62. He was 34 years on Brantford Police. He has served on the RTM before, and they were both elected unopposed tonight on the Board of Selectmen with Jamie. So it's Jamie, Ray Dunbar, and Joseph Higgins Jr., Selectmen.
We will have more election live coverage as far as results coming up in just a moment. Any thoughts on what you just saw as well as far as these results, Chuck?
Well, I think it's great. Ray garnered more votes than Higgins, and it's his first time running as a selectman, and I think it bodes well for the future.
Each candidate, right, they state right as to what their experience is and their interests. So for Ray, he's in the Elks. He's been on the Elks for I think he said about 29 years. He was as I said, he's been on the RTM before, and he's a great guy. He really is.
Yeah, I think Ray really wants to work with Jamie and the Republicans, and he wants to, be a part of those discussions that they plan to have moving forward. And I think he feels like he can contribute. And if his past is any indicator, he's going to be a great contributor to the future of the town.
We're going to head on over to Democratic headquarters. Our reporter Stephanie Farber is with some of the women candidates for the Democratic Party. We'll take it away right now. Stephanie.
Okay, it's Stephanie Farber at the Italian American Club, and I have with me a group of women, all of whom ran in this election, in this cycle. We have from last term, State Senator
Christine Cohen
and State Representative
Robin Comey,
as well as all these women here, many of whom won their first seat. As someone mentioned to me when they saw Rosa DeLauro last week, she said to them, women, step up. So all these women stepped up to win how many of you are running for the first time? All right. And how many women have continued to run who are already seated? So, fabulous. This town is strong in its women Democratic candidates, and we're so proud of all of you. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, here from the Italian American Club, Stephanie Farber for BCTV. Thanks all.
Tuned into
their seat.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. We appreciate that report, and it's great to see all of that passion and enthusiasm from the Democratic women's candidates there, and that is great. That's a good sign and encouraging more to participate, as Rosa DeLauro had suggested. Roll up their sleeves and dive right in and be a part of the action, because it's really important, right? Again, it expands some of the perspective, and some new issues are brought to the table and brought to light as well, right?
Yeah, and in fact, Jim, you know, right, they've come a long way, because they just had an event in Guilford, I think. You know, you have to keep in mind that, right, the women, they didn't even have the right to vote until, what, the late 1800s is when they were granted the right to vote. I mean, they were considered second-class citizens, and that was, you know, totally wrong. I mean, it's great to see all the participation and interest.
Well, you know, I think it's great for the younger women to see that.
To see what we just saw, right.
You know, I think it's going to encourage participation, and it's very, very encouraging.
Yes.
One area that we didn't touch upon that hasn't been talked about tonight, and it is, you know, at a national level talked about, and of course we are living here on the East Coast, in the Northeast. We experience the hurricanes and the nor'easters and all the different things that happen, and the snowstorms. Climate change and the changes that are happening to our coast and our shoreline. Let's talk about the impact of that in this area, especially being a coastal community that depends on the shoreline.
Well, that's one of the things that Jamie got done this last term, you know, in office. He established the first one in the state, the Coastal Resiliency Fund. He took from our undesignated fund balance $1 million, and we just added another $250,000. So we're going to have, you know, 1.25 in that Coastal Resiliency Fund. But you can see, right, that at the high tides, especially in storms, you can see that the water level is rising. So there is change, absolutely.
How do you feel, Chuck?
Well, climate change is a real thing, and unfortunately, the person who's sitting in the White House doesn't believe that, doesn't believe the science. So it's incumbent upon local communities, states, to step up and make sure that we address these issues, which are real and which are having an enormous effect on our environment.
Mm-hmm. Now, you both grew up in the town, and you've seen marked changes in the coastline, and I think I saw a couple of maps or something. They were predicting some of the changes that will be happening to the Brantford coastline in a matter of years, not too far off from now, where certain areas have the possibility of being underwater.
Well, that's true. The Army Corps of Engineers, Jim, they recently updated all of their flood maps, and right, it's higher and higher, and you know, of course, the premiums, you know, they've gone up. If you if you have a house on the water, you know, or even close to the water, and you have to buy flood insurance, you've got to buy it from the U.S. and you know, because the maps were issued, you know, I mean, you have to pay more.
There's some talk about a seawall being placed on the beach that runs along
146.
Yeah.
By
the Medlands
in
Farm?
Indian Neck, I'm told
that
not the town isn't going to be responsible for that, but I believe the state is going to put up a barrier of some kind there to avoid the erosion that's taken place over the years with some of these storms.
And some of the flooding that occurs and things of that nature, right?
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, I mean, speaking about state doing, you know, seawalls or, you know, I mean, they have to do something in Stony Creek, because that, you know, there's that area of 146 out there which, you know, seems to flood, you know, at the high tides and storms. And right,
what part?
It's right by Medlands Farm, right there.
Oh, right,
you know?
right, yeah.
So
over by Sawmill Road.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So again,
Jarvis Creek.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's in Indian Neck.
That's Stony Creek.
Oh, it is?
No, maybe I'm wrong.
They just verified that they both did grow up in the town.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
not Stony Creek, though.
Not Stony Creek. You know where the farms are. You know where all the traffic lights are. And
yeah, that's true.
What part of town did you grow up in? What area of Brantford?
I grew up pretty close to Kirkham Street here, over by the Green. Well, my parents bought a house in Blackstone Acres on Pine Orchard Road, but I spent most of my youth growing up in my grandparents' convalescent hospital, which is now the spa. You know, the spa there on the
Monowee Street.
Yeah, the spa on Monowee Street.
Sure, yeah.
I spent years and years working in there with with the elderly, with my grandparents, and it was great. But
so early on, you got the influence to give back and civic responsibility and things of that nature. I think it was instilled early for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, right. The thing I did, Jim, and I think Chuck did too, we got involved in the town government, at an early age.
Early on.
And it's great. I mean, you should do it. It's, there's a lot of opportunities. Like I said before, we have a lot of boards and commissions where they don't pay, but there's vacancies. So if you have an interest, contact Jamie at the First Selectman's office. He said the old days the party had to recommend you to a vacancy on a board or a commission, but when Jamie got in 2013, he actually stopped that. He said you can come to me and I'll make the recommendation. So
absolutely.
And there are quite a few open positions.
There are, sir. Yeah.
Just a minute, we're going to run through all of the results as they're coming in. Our team is working furiously to put it all together for us. And again, you can't do any of this without a team of people who work so hard. This is pretty much a year-long project here at BCTV to put this election night together. We've got a full crew here. We've got folks at both headquarters. And it's always an honor and pleasure to sit here and represent, BCTV on evenings like this with Frank and Chuck to bring you the live team coverage as only we can do here at BCTV. Chuck, what area did you grow up in within the town?
So I grew up in a neighborhood which was brand new, right off of Brushy Plains Road. And now it's surrounded by condominiums. At the time, it was surrounded by woods. And it was a great place to grow up. You had all young families, and we played football, basketball, and baseball on our own. We didn't have parents, dictating those things. We out of the house, and you didn't come back to the house till it was time to eat.
Until Mom called you for supper.
That's exactly how it was.
That's it.
And it was a great place to grow up.
Over by Veterans Park there.
Yeah.
That's a great spot as well.
Yeah.
So that's great. So again, you're listening and watching BCTV. It's just past 9:15. I'm your anchor and host, Jim Masters, here. We're bringing you live team coverage. We've had some great reporting by Stephanie Farber and Pete Schultz at the headquarters, and some commentary. We've been talking about some of the issues that have been happening here in this town, and some of the things that the candidates and the winners are going to be working on. And the key is to doing it in a collaborative approach. And regardless of what happens, statewide or federally, when we do come together as a town and roll up our sleeves and participate, that's what makes all the difference in the world. And I know we've talked about this usually a little bit each election night, is how BCTV for you, Frank, is near and dear to your heart because you're one of the founding members of this television station, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. In fact, Jim, I kind of thought you might ask about that, so I looked into it a little bit. And yeah, what happened was, back in the mid-1990s, there was a grant at the council. What happens, every time you pay your cable TV bill, I think 10% of that bill now goes into cable access. There's some talk that that's going to be changed, maybe cut out. There's
and
a lot
that's
of
a good
concern.
thing to bring up, because as we are broadcasting live and talking directly to our viewers who value BCTV and appreciate all that BCTV brings, because this is a community-minded television station here. Election night covers. Not a lot of public access stations offer this kind of coverage. I mean, this is the kind of coverage that can, rival network stations, just in terms of the effort, the monumental effort behind the scenes, on camera here. So there is talk of cuts in funding and things of that nature to public access across the nation. And that's why it's important to support in any way you can stations like BCTV, right?
Yes, and also, too, I mean, we have to give kudos to our station manager, Walter Mann, because he's been here for years and he keeps pushing us forward. This great new camera technology you're seeing, over at the headquarters, which is live streaming shots, is just amazing.
Years ago, they used to have to run tapes in. Tapes. And the tape would jam in the machine. Sometimes you wouldn't be able to get it, or feeds would go down, or streams would freeze. And now we've had live coverage.
Yeah, no, it's
Again,
true.
this is like network level quality that not a lot of stations that are public access would invest in, but it's always been a effort here ever since when you were one of the founding members of the station. They've always had that community-minded spirit, and in so many different ways with all the different programs, and that's important to realize where this kind of coverage is coming from. BCTV here.
This is my first experience. This is a very professional setup that you have. I think you guys do a terrific job.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, it's great to be over here, too. This is the old VNA building, and Unc DeRoss got this for us because they actually combined with an agency in Guilford, so this became surplus town space. So, so BCTV moved in here. But anyway, BCTV was incorporated in February 23rd, 1993, and it was incorporated by three of us, by myself, Jack Gambardella, and Keith Spar. We stayed up all night one night working on the corporation papers, and anyway, so we called it BCTV after because there was an operation in the next town, Guilford. They called themselves GCTV, so we called it BC
for Bradford Community Television, right?
Yeah.
And the rest is history. That was back when? How long ago?
That was on February 23rd, 1993. That's when it was incorporated.
Yeah, and look how it's expanded thus far. I mean, even these election nights have just grown in terms of the quality and everything we're able to do, you know what I mean? And have these folks out at the headquarters, and we've got the team working right now getting all those numbers together, and bringing in guys like you who grew up in the town and know the town inside and out. I think it's terrific, and it's very important to preserve.
Absolutely, yeah. But as Jim said earlier, I mean, that there is I don't know whether it's a rule change or a statute change, but there is some consideration that that this fee that comes to fund cable access might be cut or even stopped altogether. So
right. So it's important to get everybody together and support.
Yes.
All right. Speaking of which, the team working so feverishly back in the control room, getting everything together. They have lots of numbers for us, guys. So we're going to kick things off with the town clerk, Lisa Arpin, who we had an interview with moments ago. 4,170, the figure there. And town treasurer Kurt Schwanfelder, 3,194. Tax collector Roberta. All right, we'll go back there. Roberta wanted to be seen, and we got her in there. We'll go back to Roberta in just a minute because it's exciting. She's the tax collector. Michael, there's Roberta again. We'll go back to Michael. Michael, you there? There he is. Michael Nardella, 3,000. All right. You're writing this down, Frank?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Everything.
That's town treasurer. There you go. And now we'll go to tax collector. I wonder what that is. Oh, let's jump to Board of Education. We showed you tax collector enough. And congratulations to Bobby. Ellen Michaels, 3,299. Michael Kraus, 3,149. 6-year term. All right. And there is Dawn Parati, 3,730. And tax collector, again, Roberta Gill Brooks. She is, of course, the tax collector. Congratulations to her. Meredith Gaffney, 3,175, Board of Education 4-year term. Lisa Caruso, 2,935. Okay. Board of Assessment Appeals, Joseph Fazzino, 3,338, and Jason Driscoll, Republican, 2,741. These numbers coming in as we speak live here at BCTV. Constables, 4 elected. Ronald Washington, 3,354, and Dennis Nardella, 2,914. Coming in as we speak. Chuck Tiernan, that name sounds familiar. 3,199. Congratulations, Chuck.
Thank you.
And Kyle Nelson, 2,805. John O'Connor, 3,198, and Susan Cosgrove Barnes, 2,987. And Francis Walsh, 3,915. Okay.
All right, as far as the constables, all constables were elected, all seven.
I see another name that looks familiar, Frank Toohill, 660. Congratulations, Frank.
Good, thank you.
Michelle Sember, 548. And we're rolling through 1st District RTM, Richard Sauls, Lindsay Martoli. You see all these numbers here on the screen. Waterman and Austin, 41 and 555. Dee Harkin and Christopher D'Adamato. And there you go. There's some more numbers coming in. This is the 2nd District we're looking at right now for the RTM. Henschel and Hines. There's your numbers on the screen.
Isn't that a
as
pickup
well.
or no?
All right. 3rd District.
They
You
both
see
get
Erlanger
elected
and
down
Phillips.
because there's a minority.
Erlanger ahead there at 486. 3rd District, Peter Jackson and Peter Black, 455 for Jackson and 221 for Peter Black. And Sumro, 446 for 4th District, and Sean Kelly, 439. That's close. Dan Edelman, 461, 4th District, and Jim Stepanek, 448. Close as well. Cindy Lombardi, 480. Linda Mitchell, 431, 4th District. These numbers are coming in live here on BCT. Tricia Anderson, 484 for RTM 4th District. Okay. And Laura No, 610. Ray Ingraham, who we heard from earlier, 682. That's the 5th District for RTM. Tracy Everson, 617. Dennis Flanagan, 638 for 5th District RTM. Okay, and there's Kathy Trow, 599. Don Conklin, 617, 5th District RTM. And Carolyn Sires, 671 for the 5th District. Okay, numbers coming in. Chris Sullivan, 379, and he's been on our set here as an analyst as well. And Mark Riccio, 454. Chad Edgar, 331. This is the 6th District. Ed Prate, and 451.
So did he lose
Nancy
his seat?
McCormack, 374.
I'd have to see the figures,
Phone,
you know. It's too fast. I can't write
457,
them all
RTM
down.
6th District. 7th, we have Donna Leish, that's 356, and Kevin Healy, 322. Tom Brockett, who we heard from earlier, 373 in the 7th District. Stephen Sullivan, 311. Jamie Cosgrove, of course, 885, 1st Selectman, 1st District.
Interesting.
And 2nd is 441 for Jamie Cosgrove, as we run down all the numbers here for you. 3rd is 377 for Cosgrove. Yeah. 4th is 596. 5th is 857. 6th is 649. And 7th, 495. And then we'll go to the actual total, 4,300 for your 1st Selectman here in Brantford, Jamie Cosgrove. So guys, what do you think of the numbers so far of everything that you've seen? A lot of numbers coming at us here.
Yes, there are. The RTM, I was unable to write all down the numbers, so I can't figure it out as to who won, and because it's there's an equation involved. But from what they said earlier, right to that tonight, the Democrats picked up 1 seat on the RTM. That's again unofficial, and it was reported that it's now 17 Republicans down 1. And up 1 for the Democrats to 13, 17-13. So it's still it's close, but the majority is still in the hands of the Republicans.
So any surprises that you guys, Chuck and Frank, are seeing?
I'm looking at the 7th, and it looked as if both Democrats won, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I could do is, if we had the numbers, if they were brought into us...
Showing them on the bottom of the screen there, you can see the tax collector.
I could figure it out.
There's Board of Education.
Well, Schwanfelder's a big win, I think, at the treasurer's level.
That's a surprise, I think. I mean, over the years, Kurt's been active for many years. He was on the RTM for, I think, 21 years. And so he's the treasurer now. He unseats the incumbent treasurer, Mike Nardella, who was there for 3 terms, 6 years. And tonight we have a new town treasurer, Kurt Schwanfelder, owner of Britain's Automotive. That's a surprise.
I tell you, it's been extraordinary once again, guys, and terrific to welcome Chuck to the team here. I hope we get a chance to work with you again.
Yeah.
Thanks for your insight and perspective and analysis of what you've seen gone on. And of course, Frank Tuhill always joining us here and with us every single year. And always a pleasure to be with you as well. And we just want to thank you guys as well, of course, our massive team here behind the scenes and out at Democratic headquarters, Republican Pete Schultz and Stephanie Farber, Doug Sisson, Walter Mann, Henry Pond, Rob Baldo, everybody here, the board of BCTV, just so you know, the folks that are actually on the board are actually here working cameras and running tape and doing a bunch of different things. You don't necessarily see that in corporate America where the board is going to be, right in there and running cameras and stuff like that. So it really is a team effort to bring Election Night live to you here, and we appreciate your viewership and your support of Election Night and BCTV. And of course, we will be back next year. And again, for everybody here at the television station, this is Jim Masters thanking you for your time this time. Until next time. And thanks for being with us for Election Night Live 2019. Have a good evening.